Kristen, this is Quilly here. We've had a problem. For the first time, the DANGIT mod has really thrown a wrench in my plans. This is Kerbal Space Program, and I'm running a mod that adds a random chance of failure on our components. And in this case, my engines have failed. They do not work. Throttle them up, nothing. Try to activate it, nothing. It is broken. And that's because of this DANGIT mod. I actually got like massive alarms that went off, and the engines just cut out. This mission here is intended to be a mission to go to Minmus, as indicated by my target over here. And we got about that far in our trans-Minmissian injection burn when the engines suddenly cut out. So luckily, I am still in orbit of Kerbin, not a particularly friendly one. And also luckily, I have plenty of noms. We have a huge stack of noms ready to last us for well over a year. So we've got time to respond to this, but poor St. Tubbs Kerman over here, who is really excited to be the first Kerman to ever visit Minmus, albeit not land, he's just stuck floating in space, and we got to do a rescue mission. As a result, the Kerbal Space Agency is now going to set a new policy where all missions that leave Kerbin orbit, right, to visit some other body, must include an engineer. So now, from now on, more science. We're going to require that all missions have a pilot, because it's a personal rule. You can, the pilot gives you SAS support. You can use a probe core to give you that, and of course with MechJeb you can use that as well. But my personal rule, because normally we would just bring scientists everywhere because they can reset science experiments and just there's no reason not to do anything else. So my thing is, if I'm going to use tools like Smart ASS and things like that, then I have to have a pilot on board. Which means if ever I want to be able to reset experiments, I had to have room for a second Kerbal to bring a scientist. Well, now I'm always going to bring an engineer with me so that we can fix this. Now here's the problem, right? Let me just time warp for a second just to freeze the rotation. We could attempt, let me rotate this a little bit more upwards, like that. There we go. Just makes the EVAing a little easier, or more accurately, makes the return from EVA a little easier. If I go in EVA here with St. Tubbs, our brave pilot, and we go over to the engines, you can see DANGIT has added some options here. I can attempt to replace the coolant line, attempt to repair the engine, lubricate the gimbals, or inspect. The problem is none of these buttons will do anything for me. If I click on inspect, literally nothing happens. If I try to lubricate the gimbal, St. Tubbs isn't qualified for this. In fact, if I try for repair, he needs 10 spares, and he doesn't know how to fix it. And replace the coolant line, same thing. There's literally nothing he can do. Everyone knows that, there we go, it glows red too when there's an error. Don't know why it wasn't glowing red at the start there. But everyone knows that Kerbal pilots are only hired for their skill at playing Space Invaders on the arcade. So they really don't know how to do anything else other than, turning in the right direction. That's about it. So St. Tubbs is going to go and sit in his tin can while we develop a rescue mission. So let's go back to the Space Center and do that. Now, of course, rescue missions are not something that are that bizarre for Kerbal, of course. Sometimes you run out of fuel and you have to go and rescue people in general. And of course, there's plenty of contracts. In fact, I think I have one waiting here to go and rescue these unnamed, or these random sort of non-player character Kerbals. There's other space agencies that are sending Kerbals up there, or maybe even other missions from the Kerbal Space Science Center or something like that. They send some Kerbals out, they get stuck, so you can get missions to go and rescue them for some rewards. They're not actually in space until you accept. Once you accept, then they start orbiting around, and you should go and save them. But what is going to be different here is that we've got to make sure that rather than, sometimes what you do, for example, is you use a probe core and an empty command module, and you send it up there unmanned, and then it's just got this empty can to go and grab the one individual. Sometimes you put a grappling hook on the front so that you can attach to the other ship, or maybe you had the foresight to install docking clamps on both ships, and you attach them together, and then you can transfer fuel from one to the other. But this one here, I'm going to start with a new ship, because we are very specifically going to require enough storage or enough capacity for an extra engineer, and that's pretty much it. These things do come with spare parts. I'm going to go, 10 is all we need apparently to fix the engine, but I will go and max this out since it seems like a relatively good idea. And under utilities, I have the Mark 1 crew cabin. We've also unlocked the hitchhiker storage container, but it's bigger. So the crew cabin, so the hitchhiker one, how many people does it have? 4, and the crew cabin has 2. So that makes sense. So it's, it's about half the size, half the people. That's going to work out well. We'll try not to block the doors because it'll be more convenient if we don't. We are going to need a good number of solar panels. Doesn't actually have to be here. This bit here will definitely need its own fuel tank for some maneuverings. We'll use that plus a Terrier engine, even though it's the one that just failed last time. So that way it'll have a bit of thrust. But also, I'm going to want RCS. I'm definitely going to want a reaction control system. Presumably, we have monopropellant tanks. Oh, just these little guys. Although they do hold a fair amount of monopropellant, considering what kind of job you usually need. Can I not? Oh, I have the wrong thing selected. Wait, what? Oh, it's actually a universal storage monopropellant tank. How interesting. Even though the icon for it isn't quite right. I mean, we have got some monopropellant in here, but not that much. And I would like to have some more. Okay, so let me go and split this. We're going to grab the quad core right here for the universal storage. Drop that there. Drop that there. So maybe I'm getting these monopropellant tanks a little sooner than expected. I know, that seems a little hard. Actually, do I have... No, I don't. I don't have monopropellant, like, jets. So, never mind on that. We don't have science either. We've got plenty sitting in space. One of the things this mission can do is actually collect all the science that St. Tuvis has already collected. I guess we're just going to go and retrieve it and bring it back down early, which is going to be quite nice. I'm going to add an extra reaction wheel there, so we've got plenty of ability to twist around, which will be nice. But yeah, parking ourselves is going to be a bit of a challenge without any RCS. Luckily, we're not docking, though. But that will give us a little bit more reaction wheels, and then, of course, we will use this for the actual maneuvering, about 1,000 delta V. Ideally, I won't use this engine to mostly match orbits. This will really only be for final maneuvers, and hopefully have lots of delta V left over for that. Certainly, we're going to be coming back home with this. I mean, we might be able to leave it in space, but no, especially without RCS, we're not going to be leaving it in space. This is big and heavy. What we're actually going to use, and that's DXL. Do we have any drogues yet? Have we unlocked drogue chutes? No, we haven't. Okay, so much for that. My idea was, let's make sure we've got the right one explicitly here, was to put one drogue on the top. A drogue chute are chutes that are smaller and can't really stop you from smacking to the ground super hard, but they can deploy at higher speeds, and so you can deploy the drogue chute first to slow you down to a safe speed for everything else. And with this much weight, it might have been nice to do, but I think ultimately we'll be okay. Hey, heat shields and stuff, huh? So I guess what we're going to do is get a heat shield here and a decoupler below that. There we go. So this is going to be the bit that comes home. Excellent. And I have to make sure that the graphics here are not very good for the hatches on the side, but presumably they come out these little windows or something like that. Because they do seem to be able to EVA from this. Or maybe you never can. It said hatch obstructed, but it's possible there's no hatch at all on this. Okay, with 5 parachutes, I think, I don't know exactly how heavy that crew cabin is, but this should be more than enough to bring us home perfectly fine. And we are going to want some solar panels, though. And ideally, we put them on the top bit, A, so that we still have power on re-entry, which of course has been a problem before, but B, so that we can bring them home and save some dough. By putting them on the command module, you get a nice angle, and it's a little less likely that you get completely obstructed and not get any sunlight. We shouldn't need a ton of solar panels. This should be lots. We're not transmitting experiments home. We're not doing anything like that. The actual amount of power we need is very minimal, so that should be plenty enough to make sure that we don't run out. Worst case scenario, we run out on the dark side, and we have to wait until it comes around or something like that. Okay. Well, I think that's that. We don't have to get super close. We can mostly EVA. Now, I haven't done this test. Here's an interesting question. Let's go and set up this mission. We are going to want a pilot, Michael 6800. We are going to want an engineer. This one doesn't have any XP. TF2 brum 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 will get you a little bit. And we may as well, we've got the extra seat, we may as well bring a scientist as well. He can get a little bit of space experience, mostly by sitting around and watching. Dragonwell, there you go. I'm going to go, so this is going to be the... it's like just the engineering craft right now. But it could evolve into something else. Oh. the triple seat Mark 1. Not particularly exciting, but I don't know what else we're going to do at this point with it. So let me save, and I'm just going to go on the launch pad with this. Because what I want to see is my engineer, when it EVAs, what does he carry the spare parts with him? And if not, how do we do that? So TFT Broom 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 is my engineer. Let's EVA with you. Ah, you literally cannot EVA from this thing. Okay. So that explains that. Now, I mean, it's not the end of the world. What I can do is EVA Michael, right? And we still don't have ladders, which is going to make this a bit awkward. But if we do that, and then we switch back to this ship, and we alt-click. Actually, we don't need to alt-click, but... Oh, there's the crew hatch, right here. Just have to find it so you can click on it. We can transfer TF2 Brum 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 to the command module, and then he can EVA from there, and then hopefully we don't lose our pilot. You can't just do a swap. What I could do, maybe I won't bring a scientist. I'll leave an empty space here so that the pilot can move into the other seat, and then our engineer can go there. Yeah, okay. So we have inventory because we are using the Kerbal inventory system, and oh, take spares. It's taking one spare. Can I not open? Huh. So how many spare parts am I carrying? Okay, so I really want all of them. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Because if I have to repair the engine, I'm going to need 10 spare parts. Okay, so we have figured out how that is supposed to work. Excellent. So you will reboard, and then I will click on the hatch, transfer TF2 Brum 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 to the rear. We will switch control to our pilot, who will climb back up and board. And then we will recover this vessel. Well, technically, I could just revert. But I actually get a little bit of experience for EVAing here, even though it's only on the launch pad. A little bit of a few more medals, a few more ribbons that we can award to our Kerbals. There we go. Look at that. EVA on the Kerbal surface. Okay, good. Okay, I'm happy with that, but we will not bring a scientist. It'll be easier to do the swap-you-do if we don't have a scientist. We do have to have the pilot in the command pod, because it's the only thing that makes sense. Again, technically, if I'm not using the pilot's SAS ability, then I don't need it, but I may be using it at some point. So Dragon Wealth, unfortunately, you're not going to be able to fly here. We'll need the empty seat. Okay, good. Now we just have to get this bad boy in space, which should be relatively easy, right? I mean, luckily, it's not a weird payload. It's aerodynamic as is, so that should be all right. We're going to grab our long fuel tank that way, and I suspect that this is light enough that this will have good thrust to weight. We grab this, we grab our swivel engine, we put it down there. 1.33 is a perfectly adequate thrust to weight. We've got a current delta V about 3,000. We are going to need more than that to get into orbit, and we want to make sure, again, that last 1,000 delta V does not get used for most orbital maneuverings. Actually, it might be handy, even though this is fine, it would actually be handier if this stage here is at the end, because it's a little shorter, it'll be a little bit easier to rotate and things like that. This will be the thing that mostly gets our orbits to match. Slightly less efficient, but that's okay. So do I want another stage under it, or do I just want to have like rockets on the side? I think another stage under this is fine. This one does risk getting a little bit long. Hello. And longer stages do have a little bit more vulnerability to aerodynamic forces coming and causing some problems. Okay, you, da-da-da-da, then you, then yada-yada. Okay, staging is good. This stage does not have enough thrust to weight, though. So, I mean, we might do some asparagus staging, but if nothing else, this stage here should just, this is not, there's no decouplers here, it's just tripling up on the stage, giving it 3 times as much power, which is good, and does increase our delta V. So now we're at 4,800. The about 3,500-ish should be enough to get us into orbit. And with a little bit left to spare, which means that we should be able to we want to match our parry, basically, which is hopefully what I'm trying to do with this one. This one here is looking to match our parry and to also set up a rendezvous. And then the last one is all a bunch of spare delta V to try to match speeds at that point. So I would feel comfortable with a wee bit more going in here, but I don't know, it might be a little unnecessary. Could strap on just a couple of SRBs to give us a little bit of early kick. Not necessarily the way to go, but they're cheap. This stage here could probably get recovered. Sorry, it's early in the morning, so there's going to be a little extra umming than usual. We can just put this on and tell it not to deploy until it's got a high minimum pressure. And by the time, before these parachutes deploys, we'll probably be out of physics range, which means stage recover should just take over at that point, and we don't have to worry too much about the details. That should be plentiful. We need to make sure that these parachutes automatically deploy when we drop that stage, like that. So, do I want a few SRBs on here? This should be lots of Delta V, but I want to overkill it, just in case I have any difficulty doing the rendezvous, especially because we don't have monopropellant. We don't have that technology. So we're just going to use some hammer SRBs. Obviously, we can put that a little bit lower. And that's it. I'm not even going to put nose cones on these. Actually, what I can do is use nose cone parachutes. Actually, I wonder if they're just going to get burnt up and killed. Well, I guess we'll find out. There we are. So, we want the SRBs to launch at the same time as the other engines, then split off quite early and activate their parachutes when they do that. So now we're at 5,000 Delta V, which is a lot, but we're going to waste a lot of fuel. Well, not waste. We're going to use up a lot of fuel on finicky little maneuvers actually trying to rendezvous. I think it's probably a good idea to invest in some extra struts here. And most of this is bolted on hard, so it's not about reinforcing this. It's about trying to minimize any wobble along the length of the ship, which this should do perfectly fine. Okay, the triple seat Mark 1. I think that's going to be good. We're going to light all the engines simultaneously. It's going to have pretty good kick. 23 seconds later, we're going to go ahead and stage off the SRBs. They're going to deploy their parachutes. Then, at some point, we're going to drop, so about a minute 40 later, we're going to drop off the initial launch stage. It's going to deploy some parachutes at the same time. At that point, actually, we're going to be very close. Honestly, this stage is probably going to go into space, but hopefully be able to re-enter because the physics won't be there. And then we're going to circularize, match orbits, and do an encounter with this one. I think we're okay. We got extra reaction wheels. We do have the solar panels. I don't have any life support bonus. These guys do bring enough noms with them built in for 15 days, which should be sufficient. I don't know. What if it takes an extra long time matching orbits? Alright, we're going to bring some noms over there. Just seems like a good idea. I think that's under utilities. We could bring one of the tiny ones. There we go. Because this one here will do something. Well, it does a little over a year for one Kerbal. And even with two, it's going to be a lot. So we've got these life support mini packs. It will screw up some of our balance and aerodynamics, though. Tell you what we'll do is we'll bring one of these. Stick it on there. But if I lower my supplies, yeah, it does calculate the weight for it properly. So we're going to do like a fifth of the normal capacity. So a fifth of the year. So it'll be about a month worth of supplies, maybe a couple, especially with the 15-day built in. Like if they run out of supplies, they still have 15 days to survive. So we should be able to do a couple of months in space, easy, even with two people, I think. All right, we've got a pilot, we've got an engineer, we've got a truckload of spare parts in the lid over here, and we've got a way to re-enter with this with its 5 parachutes, which should be more than enough. All right, let's go ahead and launch. Let's go and save our min-miss mission. We're going to fix the engine, and I'm wondering if we should abort that mission entirely. I mean, if the new Kerbal Space Agency policy from now on is going to be to always ensure that there is an engineer on all missions that leave Kerbal and visit other bodies in space, it might make sense. But we're Kerbals. There's a limit to how much caution we put in. What are the odds that the engine fails twice? Actually, probably higher than the odds of the engine failing in the first place. Clearly, we've got a bum engine here. Still, that'll have to do. All right, we've got the SAS turned on. We've got throttle set to full. Let's go. We're hitting 2 Gs right now in ascent, which isn't really that much. I'm going to go ahead and throttle back on the liquid fuel tanks over here, just so that we don't have things go too crazy. Okay, we're crossing 100 meters a second, so I'm going to start a wee bit of a rollover. And we can go ahead and stage that. Okay, they didn't get blown up, that's good. And we need to throttle back up here. We should have a good amount of gimbling, which will help us fight any lateral motion going on here, which is good. And we are tipping a little faster than I would like. So I'm going to stay on the left edge of our prograde circle over here just to slow down the gravity turn rate. The longer your ship is, the more aggressive gravity turn occurs. I'm going to throttle down a wee bit. We're still accelerating quite quickly. Let's go ahead and throttle down a bit more. There we go. We're still accelerating, but we shouldn't hit too many air pressure problems. Oh, no. At this point, I think it's perfectly fine for me to tell my ship to try to stick to surface, prograde. Yeah, hitting that 45-degree mark right around 15K, which is good. The next number to look at is the time to apoapsis. As long as it's climbing, it means that overall you are going to be going up. If it climbs too high, then it means you don't really have a very efficient gravity turn going on. So I'm going to boost it just a little bit. But overall, I like this sort of overall time. Growing ever so slightly means we're still moving in mostly the right direction. I'm not going to EVA here because it's very dangerous, but actually I've already done it with St. Tubbas. St. Tubbas did an in-atmosphere EVA. Very risky, but it works. I'm actually going to pump this up to an apoapsis about 45 seconds. I think that might be slightly better for us. Now, I could have timed my launch. To happen at a sweet spot for this, which really would have been involving waiting for this guy to come around a little bit closer. But I find that when I try to do that, I screw it up anyway, and sometimes just make things worse. So it's like, you know what, we'll just launch early and we'll wait for it to happen. We'll throttle back a little bit because we are getting some atmospheric effects, although it's pretty thin air up here, so it's hardly a thing. Plus, our time to apoapsis is basically hitting where we want to be. So I'm going to throttle back and get to the point where this isn't really climbing anymore. We'll hit a nice balance. There we go. So we keep pushing the apoapsis up, right? If there's this sort of balance here, the apoapsis is still being pushed up, but at a rate that is about the same as our personal ascent, which is good. Should lead to a relatively nice flat orbit. At this point, our nav ball is actually switched to orbital map mode because the atmosphere is thin enough that we won't have to really worry about surface prograde the same way. So I will go ahead and accept the fact that we will go orbital. We are a little bit off of equatorial, which sucks. This is going to continue to climb pretty aggressively at this point. And we are going to stage. I'm just going to give these guys a little bit of space. And stage again. And hopefully not do too much damage to that. Alright, throttle up. Now, by doing this, I'm staying in the atmosphere a little bit longer, right? So there's things. You want to get out of the thick part of the atmosphere because it slows you down, but you also want to go as flat as possible for a nice, efficient insertion into orbit. Okay, this is definitely overkilling it over here. Plus, of course, we're getting heat effects. But again, you look at the height, there's not actually that much heat that's going on there. It's mostly visual that we can tell. And the science will mostly just be bugging me about EVAs. I don't have any science experiments. There shouldn't be a crew report thing. And we can ignore the EVAs because it's already been done. Alright, let's throttle back a little bit more here. I'd actually be quite happy if the time to apoapsis started to drop over here. But I haven't actually, like, escaped yet. We are pretty flat. You know what? I think it's actually okay. Honestly, if I just burn this to make sure the apoapsis is above the thing. Look at this. I mean, we're close to circularizing as is, and we're still at, like, well within the atmosphere. So the peri of this other orbit, which still has this maneuver thing there, is at 84. Okay, so you know what? I don't actually want to exceed that. I didn't want to be above that because I want to rendezvous ideally at the periapsis, as long as I match orbit somewhere. So right now my apo is a little high. We should be able to cruise there. Obviously, we'll lose some of it to what's left of air, but at 50,000, it's not too much. And if there was no atmosphere here, we'd already be doing an orbit, which is pretty crazy. So I can't time warp. I can physics warp, but I think that might be a little bit unwise. So we're just going to wait until we leave the atmosphere, and then we'll have a lot more flexibility with what we're going to do over here. There you go. I think both these Kermans, it will be their first time in space, so this must be very exciting for them. They have an interesting and difficult mission to accomplish here with trying to repair the Lunar Moth Mark 1's engine. Technically, they'd be like the Mark 1B. I think it's been tweaked ever so slightly from the one who did the lunar flyby. The lunar flyby, which was done blind with no patched conics, no maneuver ability whatsoever. We just had to sort of guess if we were going to hit the moon. But the moon's a relatively easy target to hit. Min-Miss, on the other hand, is actually slightly more difficult to hit because it is, A, further away, but it's also a lot smaller, so its sort of area of influence, its sphere of influence, is a lot smaller. And it's also on an inclination that can make it a little bit trickier to hit. So overall, blindly hitting the moon, not so hard. Blindly hitting Min-Miss, a little harder, but we have patch conics this time, so the mission was going to be super easy up until our engine died. But that's the way it goes sometimes. All right, we still have 700 meters per second of delta V in this stage. Oh yeah, the delta V in the other stage dropped a fair bit because we did add weight since we calculated things. Still, that still like should be way, way, way overkill at this point. And look at this, orbit was already almost circular. And we're about to pop into space, at which point I'll be able to time warp to our Perry. Actually, I'll keep that, that's fine. Okay, at 70,000, we'll enter space. So we're losing a tiny bit of height from atmospheric forces right now and a tiny bit of speed, but barely any. And as soon as we're in space, that'll go away. Of course, in real life, space doesn't really ever start fully. There's always going to be some particles there. Certainly, the higher up you are from the surface of the Earth, the less air density there will be. But there's always a little bit, which is why things like the International Space Station needs a boost from time to time. When a ship goes and docks with them for bringing supplies, they will also do a little bit of a boost into a higher orbit. Okay. Good. So, okay, something isn't right here. Let me quick save. I can't cancel that maneuver. It's just showing me that there's a maneuver. I'm going to quick save. I'm going to switch to the Lunar Moth Mark 1. And it probably still has its maneuver there from when I was trying to leave. Yeah, I'm going to cancel that because it's like polluting my map view. Glowing red engine, showing that there's a problem. And we can pop back over. You know, quick save. Always quick save before you switch ships. It's not too bad if it's in around the same body. But every time you switch from, say, one planet to another, it's got to load in a bunch more graphics, and you could hit a memory limit problem, which would cause your game to crash. So quick save before you switch ships. Okay, that's out of the way. Now I'm very happy with this. I was worried that I'd overshot. Well, I guess my apoapsis overshot. My parry is still too low. Derp, that's the other thing, too. So ideally, I want my periapsis to be right here and at 84. That would be the most optimal. So what I really should do is burn right here, right opposite where I want my periapsis to be. And there we go. I mean, it won't do it quite right, but I'm pushing it out. Oh, it's not. Yeah, it's because it's not quite there. Can't really just see that area specifically. There we go. That'll work. And then go ahead and pull this out. What you're looking for is you're looking for these two lines to overlap somewhere. Doesn't actually matter where, really. But with the spot where they overlap, that's where you're going to be planning your rendezvous. And because of reasons, it's going to be easier if we do it with the periapsis, but that's pretty close. The other problem, though, is we are not currently on exactly the same inclination. Now, part of that is we didn't quite launch 100% equatorial, but of course our ship going to Min-Miss was intended to be on a slightly wonky inclination. It's not all the way there. It's still got to match Min-Miss properly, but that's why the two don't quite line up. So at our ascending or descending node, we'll technically want to do a burn there, but I think I'll go ahead and do the circularization at this point. Yeah, that's fine. So we are turning prograde, which is really it. We don't need to lock to the node. This is going to be fine. Yeah, it's going to stop my time warp every time it thinks. Okay. What I'm going to do is do not stop me from time warping. I want to put that back on later. The time warp stop when there's science is one of my favorite features of Science Alert. But I already have all the science, so I don't need to bother wasting time with it. Okay, that's good. and go for burn. And there we go. Close enough. The next thing we're going to do is at the ascending node over here. So it doesn't matter. We can use the ascending or descending node. But ascending node means that at this point, you can quite clearly see it. We're coming up through the plane of my target, right? This only shows up if you have a target. So right here, we're coming up through it. So what we want to do is burn anti-normal and bring it down, which honestly might screw up my parry again. So I should have probably done these line up first, or in fact, combine the two together. But no, it looks like we're going to be mostly okay there. Yeah, I'm going to call that good enough. Messing around with it at this point is probably a bad idea. So we'll tell the smart ASS to lock to the node. I also think this might be a good time for us to go and derate this engine by about half, so that way we can get a little bit more precision. We can go ahead and just time warp to get closer to the maneuver node. We haven't finished twisting around yet, but our actual orientation... Well, actually, I guess with a planned node, it's going to be the same. Let's kill that. It's going to be a relatively short burn. The estimated burn time is wrong here because it's based on the thrust of my engine before I derated it. So it's probably going to be about a 10-second burn. But ultimately, it's going to be pretty damn similar. I'm going to wait for about 5 seconds before this node and then initiate the burn. So in about 5 seconds, yeah, we'll keep getting the little blip, 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 but we've done these EVAs. Oh, and there we go. Conceivably, I'm passing over one biome that I didn't EVA with before, but it's hardly a major problem. There we are. Wow. Nice stop. That was pretty much bang on. Okay. So we could squeeze, do another bit of a prograde burn over here to get a little bit closer. But for now, that's going to be all right. So now the big question is this. Quick save before I start mussing around with anything. We need to make sure that our target ship and our own ship arrive here at the same time. So we can do that by burning here, because if we burn here, we don't change the spot, right? So if we do this, we might see a rendezvous pop in at some point. Now, I don't want to spend too much Delta V. How much do I have left in this tank? 500. So if it doesn't work here, what we'll do is we'll skip it to the next orbit and try again. In fact, we might skip a few orbits, because this thing here is going around so far. Okay, so let's cancel that. Then I think what we do is we... It's so easy to just click on the wrong thing. I guess we click off. And then click here. Nope. Right click here. There it is. And then hit plus, and then plus again, and then plus again. So that'll be like 3 orbits later. So hopefully by then, this guy will have come around a bit. So now I can click on this and see. Oh, we're getting some movement. See these little ticky arrows? Those show you the closest point in, an approach. And in fact, we can get a pretty damn close one. Right over, and then it disappeared. Oh, no, that's from the other side. Where is it? This is very confusing. Why does it disappear? So this looks like we would get an interception that's about 10 kilometers apart, which isn't super close, but it's a pretty good start, and then we can tune it later on. This is probably, you know, good enough for what I can do manually like this. It's nicer later on when we unlock advanced MechJeb modules, which do require more tech, that can plot out some of these things for you, and they'll look into the future. Actually, you can also say something like with the alarm clock mod over here, you can say, listen, I want to know my closest approach right now. So if I didn't do anything else, the closest approach would be this. So you can wait a few orbits and get closer. In this case, it's a bad example. We're not going to get a close orbit at any time. But this maneuver will be pretty strong. So let's go ahead and quick save, because I'm about to do a time warp. I will tell it time warp me to 3 minutes before I have to do this maneuver. Now, it's only going to go at times 50 because I'm on such a low orbit. I think... Why'd you de-time warp me there? Is it because of science? But that should be turned off. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go down to the Space Center. Can I not click that to go to the Space Center? I mean, I can go here. Did I never circularize? I'm in the atmosphere. What the hell? Okay, cancel that. I mean, it's fine. We're not dipping that low, and actually we should be on our way back out. But, I didn't realize. Don't physics warp. I didn't realize we'd dipped inside the atmosphere again. Well, actually, I guess physics warping is going to be okay. But yeah, because something else I did must have screwed up. Oh, probably when I burned, Oh, we are on the way down. So, you know what? You turn prograde so that we get a little bit less air resistance. We're only just trimming the top of the atmosphere. We shouldn't re-enter. I think it's when I did my anti-normal burn. We went down. We should be able to get through here fine. Well, I mean, I still have plenty of juice, too. I can always go and do it. But as long as my apoapsis stays above 70, it means I will be able to eject out of the atmosphere on the other side. But still, that's not great. Still losing a little bit of speed. But we do have the extra delta V for, you know, mistakes like this. There we go. We've passed through the Perry, so now we're rising up again. The apo is dropping, but we should still be able to get there just fine. Huh. Once we climb out of 70, we can time warp and fix this pretty quickly. It's hardly the end of the world, but it is pretty sloppy. Well, let's cancel that. I was all excited about having figured out my little burn calculation. I guess our target is actually pretty low at its periapsis. Luckily not low enough to re-enter, because that would be awkward for saving them. Okay, climbing, climbing, climbing. Coffee, coffee, coffee. Climbing, climbing, climbing. Apoapsis continue to drop a little bit, but we'll get out on the other side. So yeah, I think when I did my inclination change, I lost some of my periapsis and I didn't even notice. Because we were definitely circularized above the atmosphere before that. Alright, about to pop back into space. I'm going to cancel the physics warp, because we'll be doing time warp soon, or maybe we'll keep going a little bit longer. Alright, good, thank you. Now, go ahead, warp to the apoaps. Actually, do it around here. That's going to be fine. Turn to prograde. And we'll go ahead and do the burn. Sort of increase the size of our entire orbit, but that's alright. Okay. These seem to be a little bit more lined up than before. So I'm still aiming. There we go. Still aiming for rendezvous around here, so we can get that blue line to match. There we go, that's good. And then, if I still need... Okay, no, my periapsis is currently okay, although I might want to give myself a bit of room to maneuver. What we can do is wait till we're actually at the apo directly, and then burn there, as opposed to opposite of that spot. Okay, I turned off the warp. I'm really confused. Oh, well, now it's warp. It's stopping because of this? No, it's not even. Oh, that was the old apoaps. That's what's going on there. Turn off the sound. It's almost annoying me. And there we go. And then what I'm going to do is just do a little minor burn here, just to give us a little bit more room in the parry. There we go. So that other sort of incidental maneuvers are less likely to drop it. All right. So that's good again. Now, we got to plan this maneuver again. Can we get an actual rendezvous there? Because that's not happening. No, because right now, the ship's still going to be on the opposite side of the orbit, so none of those are going to work. So let me actually pull back on that, and right-click on you and say, next orbit, next orbit, next orbit. I think we're starting to get to the point where we could plan one. Actually, maybe the previous orbit to this. No. It's not these two bits I'm trying to get together. It's the others. Nope. A little further ahead. One of these. Should result in something. This is one of those things where it's nice to have the AI just try these permutation and do some calculations and find it for you. Next orbit after this. Oh, actually, hold on. That's working. There we go. We're getting these two pink things relatively close together. Right around there. Separation 2.6 kilometers, which is a great start. This is going to use up most of the burn in the current stage, and its job is to set up exactly this. Okay, so let's go ahead. We're going to save again. We're going to create a new alarm for the maneuver with 3 minutes of warning. So that's in 3 hours. And now what I'm going to do, because I can do this and my parry is still fine, I'm going to drop down to the Space Center where I can fast forward more. Right? I'm not limited to times 50 if I'm at the Space Center. We can even watch from the tracking station, but that's not completely required here. Docking I have no problem with. Rendezvous, that's the pain in the butt. I need to add a button here for the Kerbal alarm clock. At least if we're here, we won't have to listen to the damn sound of the science alert either. I think we can be going to times 1,000. Just watching this timer go down. It's a very handy mod when you're trying to do rendezvous, when you have multiple missions and things like that. Or you're going very far, and you don't want to overshoot it accidentally. It should auto, yeah, should auto stop me. There it is. And that's the time to the alarm, not the time to the maneuver. Okay. Jump the ship. The maneuver node should still be there, because I haven't done other maneuvery node things. What I should have probably done is save before switching from one ship to the other. Because again, every now and again, this can crash. Although I haven't had one of those in a long time, but it's better to be safe than sorry. Okay, you are going to turn to the maneuver node. Thank you kindly. Materials are good. Here's another thing. Did I recover any of those bits and pieces? Alright, yeah, the part failures. No, it looks like it didn't save any of my stages, so I spent extra money on parachutes and didn't really get anything out of it. Oh well, so we were 2 minutes in the maneuver. This amount of burn isn't too bad. We still have this derated. So it'll be about a 35-second burn. So alright, so we're going to wait until, I say about 35 seconds. So I really want to start this with about 15 seconds left to the node. Do half your burn before, half of it after. That's the general idea. Let's go ahead and not time warp. Alright, so if I do this on the, not this orbit, because that's this one, but on the following orbit, the next loop around, we should run into it over there. Where is it now? It's way over there. Is it really going to close that distance in time? I guess that makes about sense. Alright, time to go for the burn. Actually, it's slightly late, but that's okay. Smart ASS will keep us locked onto the maneuver. Now, I could have saved Delta V by planning a maneuver somewhere else, but this is going to be okay. Plus, this actually brings me closer to the shape of my target's orbit, which is what I'm going to have to do anyway once I rendezvous. If I'm flying side by side with it, I'll obviously have exactly the same orbit as them. I hope that leaves me enough Delta V to come home. something I hadn't really considered. But I think we do. Alright. That's going to be relatively okay for this. Now, I can do a fine-tuning of this. Say over here. Oh. It's actually on the next orbit an even closer pass. That's probably the one we're going to try to tune out. So, what I'm going to do, quick save, because I'm going to fast forward a bit, just to make sure we're properly on the right orbital scale and it's not getting confused about what's happening this one versus next one. Okay, we are properly aligned this way, yeah. So, right around here, I think, well, maybe over here? I guess that makes sense. Now, it's going to be hard to sort of spot here what will actually improve our situation. 8, 3, and then it sort of goes bonkers. 2.9. Looks good. Oh, that is such a tiny, microscopic little burn. Don't trust myself to do it, but we'll try with the thrust limiter turned as far down as possible. It's because a tiny change over here has a big change over here. We are locked to the node, so that's okay. Let's go ahead and warp to 3 minutes before the maneuver. But by doing a 0.9 meter per second burn over here, we're shaving like 10 kilometers off our encounter. That's pretty good. It's mostly a prograde because that's the only meter I messed around with. And again, trying to figure things out from here and spot things over there is going to be tricky. If you're closer, then you need more delta V to make changes, but it's a little easier to fine tune. And certainly if you're literally right next to it, it's super easy. Okay. Oh. You are locked to the node, yeah? Yes, you are. Good. May as well be right on it when we start the burn. Because even with things set to 5% and me only using a tap at shift, this is still going to go incredibly quickly. Okay, we're at the node. Alright, not quite as quick as I thought, actually. Oh, that second of lag there, that's not good. And then it starts to shift away. Alright, when it goes down to 0, that's going to be pretty damn close. So we've got a 3-kilometer encounter in 37 minutes, which is pretty good. We've also got one at 19 kilometers in 35 minutes. So we're going to get close here, separate a little bit, and then get close again over there. So it's not next orbit, but it's still pretty damn clear. Okay. We can warp to here. Definitely quick save before using that warp to here mechanic, because sometimes you click on the wrong line, and then all of a sudden it's like, time is 10,000 time warp for the next week. You're like, what happened? I thought I was just moving forward a little bit. Alright, so I have a target. And when we get close, actually, our nav ball will automatically switch to target mode, but I'm going to do that now. There we go, target mode. So it's going to show us our relative speed. It's way too early to make any adjustments there. With Smart ASS, there's also little target helpers which are there. But it's basically, this is pointing towards the target and away, which is the same thing as sort of a radial or anti-radial burn, right? Using your normal SAS stuff, I'm pretty sure. This is burning parallel. So I think what this does is it faces you the same way as your target ship. This faces you the same way, this faces you in the opposite direction. And then this burns you prograde and retrograde based on the motion of the ship. So what we're going to be doing when we get close is we're going to be burning retrograde when we get close to match our speeds, which will also match our orbits. If we're close enough to it, and then we get our relative velocity down to 0, it means we'll be in exactly the same orbit, which is ultimately what we're trying to do so that we can go side by side. But we're going to wait until we get close to that pink marker to mark some of our closest approaches over here. Okay, so again, we're going to separate a little bit over here, but then we're going to start to come together. Now, I don't have to burn off that much delta V. I will have to do a stage, though. You can probably turn to be target retrograde now. 21 seconds, yeah. And go for that, because we are going to have to stage partway through. Oh, and your engine is still derated. Let's crank that all the way up. Stage. And go. Where's my target? Should be able to see it here. The next stage. So it's in a slightly higher orbit than I am. So somewhere over here? Huh. Okay, we're going to wait because we're going to get closer and closer. Oh, it's below me. There it is. Okay, and it's moving away. So we actually are literally going to burn towards it here. Ideally, though, doing this manually is not smart. I want to burn something like that. So the pink marker, this is actually a mod. It shows me the direction towards my target. And what I really want is my prograde marker to be right on there. There we go. Now, of course, prograde is going to go wherever you go. So if your concern is not to build as much relative speed to your target, but to make sure that you're moving towards it, is overshoot here with your pointer. And what you'll do is you'll drag your prograde. You always drag the prograde and push the retrograde. So there you go. So now I'm moving towards my target at 50 meters per second, which is maybe a little bit quick, but at least I'm moving towards the target. And then again, once we get close, my goal will be to roll to burn retrograde. And for now, what I can do is I can turn to the retrograde direction, and I can push my retrograde marker so that it stays on the little pink thing, which is, again, the direction, well, technically directly opposite the target. But if the retrograde marker is right on the pink thing, it means that I'm still going directly towards my target, but at least this way, any burns I do don't increase my relative speed next to each other, which would be bad because I could overshoot it. Ultimately, I want my target speed to be 0 while still moving towards it up until the point where I've decided we're close enough, and then I'll just put a freeze on it completely. So I'm just doing a very slow burn there. Okay, we're still approaching, maybe a little slow at this point. I'm going to derate my engine so you can do a little bit more fine-tuning. But there we go. Looks like what I want to do is push my retrograde marker to be a bit more on target. Now, this is naturally going to drift because we're not in exactly the same orbit. You do, tend to get a little bit, it automatically diverges a bit. Up until you're really next to each other, these things will drift a little bit because we're not literally in the same orbit right now, although now we're pretty darn close. And we are closing. This is there. If we go to the other side, our prograde marker will be directly on our direction to our target. I mean, pretty directly. But I'm going to keep mostly getting ready for retrograde. I'm going to keep pushing the yellow retrograde marker onto the pink bit so that we're going as straight to our target as possible, while also trying to generally slow us down. I mean, we're not going very fast. We could easily put the brakes on at this point. But there we go. And how close are we going to get? I don't know. I mean, at this point, I can go ahead and EVA from one to the other without too much difficulty, to be honest. But it would be nice for style points if we could end up at least within 50 meters. There will be a little bit of drift between the two. I mean, one thing is I want to make sure I don't actually smash into the other one. And with that in mind, I don't think I'm going to straighten out my orbit any more than this. I'm going to go ahead and hit the brakes. Okay. Now, retrograde marker changed. There'll be a little bit of movement. I'm actually going to go ahead and hit target minus to go away from the target. Just give one little scooch there. So we may have frozen it, or ideally, if we're just tiny moving apart ever so slowly, that should be okay. So I'm going to turn off this. I'm going to put on regular SAS. I'm going to orientate things so that my hatch door is at the top, which will make it easier to re-enter later. I'm going to quick save. All right. So our pilot, take a back seat. And where's the ones that counts as the hatch? This one right over here. Isn't it? Oh, maybe it was on the other side. There it is. TF2 Brum Brum Brum, who is our engineer, can move to the front. That way he can EVA. Okay, I think we're slightly moving apart. I think that was 0.5 earlier, so that's okay. Okay, we are going to take spares. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There's probably another way to do it, but there it is. I have 10 spares, which is enough to replace or repair the engine if needed. Not replace. I don't have the power drill yet technology. I do have the wrench, but I don't think the wrench can install a new engine. So we're gonna have to repair the one that's in place rather than install a new one. So we're gonna move towards the Mooner Moth. Hopefully we didn't actually need a wrench. That would be pretty embarrassing if I run this whole mission. And it turns out you need a wrench. I could have easily put one in the inventory. Didn't say anything about needing a wrench earlier. And I think the wrench is only used for attachment and deattachment. I think the spare parts are all we need. Presumably we have smaller tools. So... inspect. Ooh, I get that. Ah, okay. That's where it was showing up earlier. My pilot didn't know anything about it. What, he isn't sure about it? Oh, I see. Ah, the engine has failed. He's not sure about the gimbal or the coolant lines. So, well, I mean, I could try the others and just see what happens. Nope. Come on. There we go. Replace coolant line? Qualified. Really? Okay, repair engine. But you're an engineer. Do rank 1 engineers not have the ability to repair stuff? Okay then. Plan B. This is now a simple rescue mission. TF2, brum. Go back to the ship. It's a good thing we have an empty seat. We are not going to min-miss today. Now, he should get level 1 from having gone into orbit, so hopefully that's all that's required. Level 0 engineers can't fix spaceships. Oh my god. That caught me completely off guard. That's terrible. So, it's going to be very important for us to start training up our engineers. You transfer to the back. Alright, St. Tubbas. You are going to EVA. You are then going to grab all of our data, which is mostly a bunch of EVAs. You're going to let go, RCS, and there we are. This thing is going to be fine on its own. We'll collect it at some point. Maybe run another mission out here. I mean, we could just blow it up. But it's a perfectly fine mission, as long as we do get it repaired. But I don't know. It's expensive. It would be nice to be able to at least bring it home, even if it can't do min-miss. Alright. Nope. Alright. RCS. Scooch up. Grab. Board. Okay. Well, we can't swappy-do. I don't think... Could we? It'd be nice if we could, but no. It's full. So you need swap space. So St. Tubbas is gonna bring this bad boy home, which hopefully will not die. I think we're gonna be okay. We got plenty of supplies. I mean, we did have a smaller amount. Yeah, we have 30 days worth of supplies, and our orbit right now is what? Our orbital period is only 2 hours. We're not that far out. So we do have a lot of delta V, but not infinite amounts. We can't just start anywhere. So what we're going to do is we're going to clear a target. I guess I have to be in this view. Double click. There we go. Clear the target. We are going to fast forward to the apoapsis. When we're there, we're going to burn retrograde, lower our peri so that it's within the atmosphere, and re-enter. We'll aim for probably around 25 kilometers, something like that. There you go. Time warp's going to end. We'll face retrograde momentarily. Do the burn. Hopefully this engine doesn't fail, because apparently we can't fix these engines. Wow. Well, I would have saved money and gone with a slightly simpler mission here. Although, it is good that this engineer at least will get some experience points. If I'd done just a simple rescue mission with a probe core, no one would have gotten any XP. Oops. Took me a second to spot the thing again. We dropped too fast. We'd come in, we'd probably be fine, but we would be coming in a little bit steep. So I'd rather go and raise my peri again, and again aim for about 25. That should be a nice middle ground between not just skipping out of the atmosphere, but not coming in too steep. That should be fine. I'm going to quick save before I time warp here. But all we're looking to do is re-enter the atmosphere. And actually, just before we enter the atmosphere, I'll probably jettison the engines, keeping them on for now, just, I don't know, just for cuz. Hey, crew transfer near Kerbal. There's a milestone. Well, that's very exciting. Power is good. I mean, we've got the solar panels, right? So power should actually be fine. And we are re-entering, so you know what? Stage. It's totally okay. And you will be doing surface retrograde, but it doesn't matter quite yet. We're just going to time warp until we re-enter. 40 minutes. Go a little faster for now, and then just bring it back down. And we don't accidentally want to skip through too much of the atmosphere. Got plenty of rotation wheels, so it should have no problems. Oh, you know what? I'm not going to do the mistake, though, of running out of power. If we're coming in on the dark side. No, we'll have light, maybe, I hope. But yeah, let's turn that off and not waste any extra electric charge if we don't have to. I might just bring this in manually. I mean, obviously with SAS. See how much we skipped into the atmosphere? Look at that. Crazy amounts. So I'm going to use regular SAS here, which won't drain too quickly. And yeah, we'll take care of this manually. But yeah, we skipped like 20,000 meters worth of atmosphere because we were time warping so fast. So that could have been a little bit more atmosphere to break us. Although, in practice, you don't really get any aero braking until you drop below 50. And even here, look at this. Our orbital speed is basically not changing at all. These are just flames to look impressive, but they're not really doing much. I think that was the other bit of our ship. So if I told you to lock here, would you drain very quickly? No. You're actually not using very much electric charge right now, which is good. I'll just keep an eye on that. Surface speed is bleeding off. Electric charge is pretty good. So by saying surface prograde, or retrograde here, I'm just telling it keep the butt into the wind. Make sure that's the heat shield so it can soak up more. The ablator is down to 184, 183. It's not dropping very quickly though. We've got plenty of ablator. Yeah, we're not like aero braking from, you know, an escape velocity, which would be a lot more intense. This is a relatively simple orbit. It's not even coming from the moon, just a 2-hour overall orbit. So this should be pretty textbook. And we are bringing home a bunch of science, which is good, so we can unlock some more parts, which is great. But yeah, we're going to have to do more training missions. What I think I might do relatively soon is actually just make sort of a big space bus that's got room for lots of people and bring a big truckload of engineers up with me. At some point, I like to do that with scientists because when you get a science lab, you want higher level scientists so that they actually convert data into science at a relatively good rate. Because normally they're quite slow. It's very glacial research. And so if you level them up to 1 or even 2, it's like sort of exponential how much faster they are. So you really ideally want a bunch of level 2 scientists running a science lab because then your science gets crunched really, really quickly. But in this case, I think our priority will actually make sure we've got a pool of, you know, at least a couple, but ideally maybe 3 or 4 engineers that are at least level 1. And in fact, for all I know, I need to make sure they're up to at least level 2. I'm going to have to go and read some more information on DANGIT and see exactly what the level breakdown is for engineers. The problem is, a lot of times it's not listed explicitly on the blurb page, right? They say, oh, things will go wrong sometimes, haha, and that's it. They don't tell you what's involved in fixing it. Like here, it's like, okay, my pilot can't fix it, that's fine. Let's send up an engineer. Oh, the engineer doesn't have enough levels for it. Poop. For all I know, a high-level pilot can fix some of these things. I have no clue. Okay, power's still good. We're still going to keep our butt end in here just because we don't want to start tumbling and have our ship torn apart by aerodynamic forces, which is a problem in Ferrum. Not so much in vanilla, but with Ferrum Aerospace, it certainly can happen a bit more. But overall, we're going to be fine. If I'm worried about my parachutes, I can go ahead and change the staging around so that the top parachute will open first. We'll confirm that it hasn't ripped off and then open the others. Just as an extra level of precaution, but really if you wait until 350, you're fine. The only thing is, this is slightly higher elevation here, so we got a little bit less room for air, but we're going to be okay. I'm actually going to test opening at 300 and confirm that it doesn't get insta ripped off. No, we're still above 250, which is the normal safe thing. It looks in Ferrum that that's pretty darn safe. It's actually not doing a very good job of slowing us down to where we want, and I don't know how far above the ground we are actually. Getting more atmospheric. Oh, because the air is thickening up again. There we go. So now we're getting a little bit more air. Oh, we are now only 1,000 meters above. This is actually really dangerous. We're quite high here. But now our motion has been arrested successfully. Can turn off the smart ASS completely. Drift down. We'll just quick save. Topple over a bit. And then just physics warp to the ground. where we'll touch down nose first, which is fine, because this is such a low speed that no components will break. Well, that's not true. Extended solar panels would definitely break, but frankly, they get ripped off by the air pressure at this point, so it's kind of moot. Oh, we actually are pretty close to sea level, actually. We don't get a shadow, but we're clearly quite close. And topple over. There we go, not bad. And no science to be had over here. So we will recover this vessel, having rescued St. Tubbas from his engine disaster. So nothing I did, not a mistake I made, just one of those things that can go terribly, terribly wrong, but we didn't lose any lives. So that was exciting. On the downside, I still need to go to Minmus. Honestly, I'll probably run the exact same mission again, since bringing an engineer doesn't seem to help. Any cool... We got some... Yeah, we got the extra EVAs. Orbital EVA. That's nice. Mach 5, landing on Kerbal. Oh, you got the first EVA. Or, well, I don't know if that was the first one. Or for being the first one, yeah, so you got an extra special one compared to some others. As opposed to just being in there. Oh, I guess it's the same one, but it's got gold bars. See, this is the EVA around Kerbal. This is the first EVA around Kerbal, so it's got gold bars. So presumably that's one too. Yep. All right, cool. So we did get some science recovered, another 70. This does give us enough to unlock a new technology. I don't know what that's going to be. Miniaturization offers up the magnetometer boom in universal storage, but small fairings. But I don't know. I don't think this tech is a priority, short of it unlocking something that we need, which would be nice later on. And we could, of course, just save up, but I don't think so. Advanced flight control. Oh, there's our RCS block, which would be nice. Those are tiny engines, which I don't care about. These are big, fat engines, which are good. Although, without more sort of fuel tank stuff, I think we're going to hold off. I think I will go for the advanced flight control. The Mark 1 lander can is just a crew capacity of 1. We're just going to want the RCS option later on. There's a lot of stuff in here. More docking ports. UKS workshops. This is the MKS. These are some ground bases. I have the ability to set up some ground bases. The Pioneer module, in particular, is nice because it's very self-sustaining. The downside is we don't have good solar panels yet. Right? Good solar panels will come from advanced electrics. Yeah, we might just want to save up for this. We don't get more science from miniaturization? No, just get slightly more convenient science. Precision engineering does unlock more science, though. It's tempting to just save up for this, for the really good solar panels. That's good. We'll get the RCS. It's going to be handy if we have to do more rescue missions. So what I'll probably do next time, and I'll probably do this behind the scenes, is I'll probably run my flyby of Minmus again. Should be a totally boring mission if everything goes well. See you next time. Bye-bye.